Hello viewers, you are watching our special edition. In this edition, we'll be talking about the Green Legacy Initiative Ethiopia is undertaking over the past 8 years. To discuss this matter, I joined by Dr. Desaley Chala, ecologist and biodiversity scientist. Till the end of our program, stay tuned. Doctor, thank you for making time for this interview.
I would also like to thank OBN very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. First, could you tell us a brief about yourself?
As you have already mentioned, I am an ecologist and biodiversity scientist, and currently I'm basing at University of Oslo. And very recently I've also obtained an adjunct professorship with Addis Ababa University, and I have a lot of collaboration with Addis Ababa University and Jimma University while I'm working in University of Oslo. And probably if I have to briefly tell you about my background is in biology, in geographic information system and remote sensing. And I'm mainly working by combining these tools.
Thank you. As I have tried to mention in my introduction, today we'll be discussing about this grand project, Green Legacy Initiative in Ethiopia. So from an ecological perspective, what makes Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative significant? Let's start from this question.
Yeah, so as I'm always doing, first of all, I would like to start by acknowledging everyone who is behind this flagship project. And I want to congratulate them, as I'm always doing. And it's really a huge flagship project. And so far, it has been reported that they have planted about 48 billion seedlings. And these seedlings include, different kind of plant species, and not only that, they are also planting cash crops, and it also includes fruit trees. And it's not only about restoring the ecosystem; it's also about livelihood, and it's really very multifaceted. And again, I don't know a single country which have taken such a big initiative, and because of that, there is a lot to learn from this restoration project. And it can also serve as a kind of open-air laboratory where we can make research on ecological restoration, what it means from biodiversity point of view, and what does it mean from ecosystem services point of view, and what are the opportunities and what are the opportunity costs. And because of that, there is a lot to learn from it beyond the benefits we are obtaining from it.
Thank you. You have raised about biodiversity. So how do you evaluate the initiative's contribution, especially to biodiversity conservation?
Yes, one of the biggest success of the Green Legacy Initiative is, it's becoming at the center of the national conversation. Second, it has also managed to mobilize every citizen. And because of that, I personally think that, ecosystem restoration and conservation is almost becoming a culture. And the culture is what gives an initiative sustainability. And one of the parts which we can really appreciate is the sustainability. Not only that, because of Green Legacy, now, conserving an intact habitat that have been developed through several millennia, such as, an intact forest, an intact wetland, an intact grassland. The conservation of those intact habitats is also becoming a culture. Beyond what we are planting, this sentiment of, conserving an old habitat, such as an intact habitat, which is including the forest, the grassland, the wetland. I think that's even more important than what we are planting, and that has got a lot of contribution to biodiversity. Second, again, Green Legacy Initiative, we are planting diversified types of species, and because of that, some of the native species which have been endangered will have a chance to rebound back, and because of that, it will have a great contribution to biodiversity. But to talk from scientific point of view, biodiversity is very complex. And because, for example, like if you are afforesting a grassland, the chance to lose biodiversity is high likely. So because of that, it really needs, a kind of research to objectively tell how much it has contributed to biodiversity, but we can definitely say that the contribution to biodiversity is very immense.
Good. As you have mentioned, Ethiopia has planted over 48 billion tree seedlings over the past 8 years. How do you describe this large scale of tree planting, especially in addressing climate change here in Ethiopia?
Okay, first, as I was already mentioning at the beginning, most of the time I prefer to say that Ethiopia has planted 48 billion seedlings. Because these seedlings, some of them are cash crops, as you know, like coffee, for example. 8 billion of them are coffee. And we also have like a lot of apple cultivation in Ethiopian highlands. And we have a lot of cultivation of avocados, mangoes, and a lot of other fruit trees. And because of that, if we just say that Ethiopia has planted 48 billion trees, that will be a kind of misleading. Because Ethiopia has planted diversified type of plant species, which might even include the herbs. And because of that, I think we need to also expand the narration. And as I was also already mentioning, Ethiopia is also, conserving intact habitats, intact forests, intact grasslands, and that should also be part of the communication. Not only that, in Ethiopian highlands, Ethiopia has built, a lot of stone bands in order to conserve soil and water, and a lot of tracing have been also built in Ethiopian highlands and slopy areas, and I think that should also be part of the communication as well. So whenever we are communicating, I like to hear how much hectare of land is, restored. I want to hear how much kilometer of traces have been built in Ethiopian highlands in order to conserve soil. I also want to hear how many kilometers of stone bands have been built in order to conserve soil and in order to conserve water. And I think we need to really expand this thing. And coming to, plantation, it's been, I think, more than 400 or 500 years since scientists have learned that plants are not soil eaters. Actually, most of the biomass of plants is coming from water and coming from the air. When we are saying the air, most of the biomass is coming from the carbon dioxide, which is one of the major greenhouse gases. So when these plants are growing, that means they are taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and all the biomass you see is the carbon dioxide which is stored within the plants. That means plants play an important role in taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and in minimizing, the greenhouse gases, and in such a way in mitigating the climate change. But in order to bring a significant change, our contribution might not be that much, because other countries should be on board. Not only that, especially the emission from developed countries should be minimized. Even when it comes to Ethiopia's role in mitigating climate change, at the same time, we need to also mention Ethiopia's investment in green energy, Ethiopia's investment in hydroelectric power, Ethiopia's investment in solar energy, Ethiopia's investment in wind energy. I think that should also be part of the conversation. So especially at a local level, the impact is very significant. But at a global level, we need still a lot of effort from developed countries, especially in cutting down the emission and in transiting into using green energy. And that's what's really more contributing to climate change.
Very nice. Let us talk about restoring ecosystems. So, how important is the Green Legacy Initiative in addressing this ecosystem restoration?
Yes, I think I've already briefly touched on, and especially its role in soil conservation is really immense, and its role in increasing water infiltration is very significant, and at the same time, its role in groundwater recharge is very significant. So, in general, in creating a very healthy ecosystem, it has got a very remarkable contribution in that one as well. Yeah.
Good. What about the role of this green legacy in improving habitat for Ethiopia's endemic wildlife and the plant species, especially?
Yes, and the other thing is, yes, as an ecologist, actually, when we see plants, actually, we see a network of relationship. I mean, like we see what kind of bird species are residing in these plants and what kind of insects are relying on the nectars of these plants, and at the same time, what kind of ecosystem services those insects are providing. So, I mean, as the vegetation is coming back, the animals are slowly also coming back. And not only that, at the same time, we're talking about, like conserving the intact habitat, but sometimes, especially when the land degradation is not severe, if you just minimize the pressure, then the organism will have the chance to come back. So to come back from the soil seed bank, and especially the soil conservation effort which is taking place in Ethiopian highlands will have, the opportunity for endemic species to come back from the soil seed bank. So because of that, it will have again a role in bringing back some of the endangered, and even those who have gone extinct will have the chance to come back because of this restoration process.
Well, let us talk about survival rate, which is very important in planting tree seedlings. Yeah. Could you discuss it as an expert, the importance of survival rate?
Of course, I mean, this can also be answered by any person. And if you, let's say, plant 100 trees, and if the survival rate is only 30, and if you plant, let's say, 50 seedlings, and the survival rate is 40, that means, by just planting 50 seedlings, the efficiency will be high. So working on the survival rate is very important. And at the same time, nowadays, ecosystem restoration is almost becoming not only an ecology, but also a data science. And one of the things which I'm always trying to advocate is, for each of the plantation which we are making, if we can convert that into a data point, so that we can know what has been planted where and where. So that will make monitoring very easy. So one of the things we should focus on is, like monitoring. But at least what they are reporting is really very great. So, but I think by enhancing the database, by improving the database, monitoring could have been, much better, so that we can objectively tell what the survival rate really looks like. But at least what the data show is really very encouraging. So it's really very nice, I think.
Thank you. Talking about these scientific indicators, what scientific indicators should be used to evaluate, especially biodiversity recovery, as an expert?
That's a bit difficult question. So, like, how much the landscape is getting greener over time is easy to evaluate, and how much the groundwater is coming back the recharge of the groundwater, again, that's also easy to evaluate. But, to evaluate the biodiversity is a bit complex. But still, like, there are, of course, measures. There are measures like, there's what you call like species richness, like how many species we have. And there's what you call species evenness, and how evenly these species are distributed. So it really needs a research to again, objectively say anything about that. But by using remote sensing and by using different kind of technologies, and you can really quantify how many species we have in different landscapes, and that can serve us as a measure.
Good. As you know, a mass of population have been participating on this flagship project. So how important is community ownership for the long-term success of this initiative?
This is unquestionably important. And one of the important thing about Green Legacy Initiative is involving everyone, including from the grassroots level to all high-level politicians. So I think there should be a kind of understanding. The community should understand that the Green Legacy Initiative, what's all the activities being carried out in the Green Legacy Initiative, should be taken as a long-term investment. So, as I was also saying at the beginning, when you are involving everyone from the grassroots level, that slowly become, a culture. And at the same time, of course, the local people will slowly understand the ecosystem service which this kind of activity is providing. So involving the grassroots level and involving every citizen is definitely very important. Yeah.
Well, let us connect this initiative with agriculture.
Yeah.
So how do you describe the integration between the Green Legacy Initiative and agriculture, especially in boosting product and productivity?
Yes, so one of the things is actually then, especially one of the work which is being carried out is soil conservation. So by conserving soil, that means you are minimizing soil erosion. As you are minimizing soil erosion, you are also minimizing land degradation. So when you are minimizing that land degradation, of course, that will increase the yield. And at the same time, then we are also mentioning that this activity also includes planting fruit trees. And so that will definitely maximize the amount of yield. So it will have an economic benefit to the farmers and the local community. So that might be the reason why also the amount of income we are obtaining from coffee is increasing over time. I think Ethiopia was exporting, I think, a maximum of about $1 billion from foreign currency by exporting coffee. Now that has increased into $3 billion. And that's really a kind of huge improvement. So at the same time, what we have felt at a national level must have been also felt at a local level. So I think the community will slowly learn the benefit from this restoration project. So as they are learning the benefit, then they start to feel the ownership, which is contributing to the sustainability.
What lessons Ethiopia has learned from this initiative since its commencement in 2019?
At the beginning, if you see, we're mainly talking about numbers. And then slowly, as it is, as the time is going, we have also started to include cash crops. We have started to include apple. And very recently, now the conversation is also changed. Now we are mainly talking about indigenous trees. So the way they are carrying out the initiative is even, progressing over time. So we have started to talk about diversity, and we have started to talk about indigenous trees, native trees, and as you were mentioning about endemic plants, about medicinal plants. So both from diversity point of view and from the state-of-the-art point of view, things are really improving over time. So I think that's the lesson which we have learned.
Okay, Ethiopia is also sharing this tree planting for neighboring countries. So How do you describe this move, especially in increasing environmental cooperation among neighboring countries?
Yes, on that aspect, actually, one of the idea which I was also trying to mention on the other media is Ethiopia still can exploit the latecomer advantage, especially in leapfrogging this traditional approach of restoration, and especially if they are, converting each of the plantation into data points, a data point which is really traceable, and that will make monitoring very easy. You can easily, from the database, you can easily learn what have been planted where and when and all those kind of stuffs. And at the same time, in which area the restoration has succeeded and in which area the restoration didn't succeed. So why it has succeeded in some area and why it didn't succeed in the other area. Why the survival rate for some plant species is higher than the other plant species. So we could have learned a lot. Not only learning, it's also easy to reproduce. Because so then if you can easily reproduce, other countries can also emulate all the good practices in Ethiopia. So one, by effectively carrying out this flagship project, Ethiopia is already becoming an example to the other country. But again, by technologically advancing it, Ethiopia also could have, enhanced the reproducibility of the Green Legacy Initiative so that other countries can easily emulate it. So that's maybe one of the way forward, something which should be thought over.
Okay, as climate change is the global issue, what is expected from other countries in supporting the initiative Ethiopia has started, and especially for those what we call developed nations? What is expected from them, especially in financing this green economy and the green legacy initiative? So what is expected from other nations?
Yes, so one of the most important things is, the globe is highly interconnected. So whatever happening in one corner of the globe is felt in the other part of the globe. One of the reasons why we are suffering from climate change is not because we have contributed that much to greenhouse gases. It is because the developed world has, their footprint is really very high. So the emission is very high there. So the emission which have been, taken place in developed countries is already felt here. But now we are trying our best in planting, plants and in taking carbon dioxide and in contributing to mitigation of climate change. So there should be, like a kind of group effort. I mean, everyone should take part in this. So that's also one of the reasons why I'm always saying that, our restoration should be smart. Our restoration should be objective, so that we can easily show what we have planted where. We can easily show how much the contribution is. We can objectively assess. In such a way, we can tell the other part of the world how much we are playing a role in mitigating climate change, so that we can easily, ask for funding. We can easily ask for, collaborations, including even expert collaborations. So I think this kind of effort is already there at a global level. So it's all about, telling our story the right way. So, but there are chances for that. There are chances for collaboration. But the good thing is, doing by our own resource, by doing our own, resource, that also have an advantage, because you own it. You don't have to expect from the others. You don't have to externalize. But at the same time, communicating the right way and seeking for international collaboration is highly important. And there is a platform for that.
Well, finally, what is expected from Ethiopian diaspora in promoting such grand initiative of their nation, and experts like you in promoting such flagship projects?
Yes, I think this is about ecology, this is about restoration. One, it has to be separately seen from politics. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I think 48 billion trees, like if you divide it into every individual in this country, that's too much. And sometimes, like we need to also like feel responsibility. And probably like if I were like living here in Ethiopia, so I was supposed to, plant maybe 400 seedlings or 500 seedlings, like at least if you convert that in monetary value, that's really very huge. So one of the things is like it should be separated from politics. Like you don't have to be like a supporter of this government, or you don't need have to be like someone who is opposing this government. It shouldn't be politicized, and the benefit is for all of us. So it's really very important to contribute to this initiative, both from expert point of view and if needed even from finance point of view. And above that, then telling the story to the other part of the world, promoting it. And relatively, I think the amount of effort that have been put into the Green Legacy Initiative and the amount of success which is obtained from the Green Legacy Initiative and the story that have been told to the other part of the world, I don't think that they are matching. We need to really promote it more. So the more we are promoting, the more awareness we are creating. The more awareness we are creating, the more the chances are high likely to involve all the citizens, including Ethiopian diaspora, which is living in different parts of the world. So that's really very important.
If you have any concluding message, please do it.
Okay, so when I'm really highly impressed. Yeah, because I don't know how they managed to collect the seeds and how they managed to, even establish the nursery sites and how they could manage to achieve this one. That's really very amazing. I have to say that. But as I'm always saying, then making science an integral part of it. It's already an integral part of it, but still there is a possibility to make science an integral part of it and to advance it in technology, to make it more to make it more smart, so that we can easily monitor it. We can effectively use the ecosystem services we could have obtained from it. And if other countries are also want to reproduce it, they can easily reproduce it. So making science the integral part of it, that's one of the things, and even in a better way. And the second thing is making it more smart, especially using the latecomer advantage, so that we can leapfrog the traditional approach. And that's also really important. So these are, the third thing is maybe institutionalizing, probably having an institution which is dedicated to this. Probably even like, for example, now we are planning to have a university which is focusing on AI. Maybe an institute which is totally dedicated to the Green Legacy Initiative. And an institute which is, consulting on how to implement it, consulting on how to monitor it, consulting on how to use the ecosystem services from it, consulting on how to reproduce it. Probably an institute which is dedicated to help in implementation, in doing research, in using ecosystem services. Maybe I think that's the way forward. So by institutionalizing, we also make sure that it is sustainable. Probably that's the last point I would like to mention.
Dr. Desalin Chala, ecologist and biodiversity scientist, thank you for your time and a deep insight on our program.
Thank you very, very much, you as well as OBN, for this chance. And thank you for the very nice conversation.
Thank you. Dear viewers, that's all what we have for this edition. See you next time with another program. Till then, bye-bye.